Welcome to the One in Discussion. This season will provide us the chance to speak to ambassadors to Canada about their country, our country, and what unites us. My name is Richie Rutkowski, and today I'm honored to speak with His Excellency Vice Skračić, Croatian Ambassador to Canada. Vice has had a long career in foreign affairs, serving as an ambassador since late 2019. Vice, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Richard. It's good to be here.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's another great day in Canada, full of snow.
But there's snow in Croatia too. You got a lot of skiing and...
Yes, there is, but nowhere near as much as you have here.
No.
When I see the snow, I always say Canada has returned.
We'll get right into it. Over 30 years ago, Croatia underwent a war of independence.
Yes.
What was it like for you growing up before the declaration, and how have you seen it change since? Not only for you, but for your family as well.
I think kids growing up today would not understand how we lived in the 80s and the early 90s. Of course, war changed all that. In the early 90s, we as you said, we had a war of independence. It was very hard. It was hard for us, it was hard for everyone in Croatia. Croatia did not want a war. What we wanted was more of a say in our own future. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what brought about the changes that happened then. But yeah, I mean, I have a son, he's 9 years old, almost 9.
Yes.
They have a hard time understanding that they can't watch streaming all the time. You can't show them what it was like for us growing up. Of course, Yugoslavia then, and Croatia, when it became independent in the early 90s, it was hard to get many things. We were a burgeoning democracy. We were learning things in the 90s. That, of course, has changed 30 years on. Now we're a thriving parliamentary democracy. We're members of the European Union and of NATO. This summer it'll be 10 years since our entry into the European Union. And we're still learning there as well. So everything is a learning process.
Excellent. What was your first experience in this workforce? And what prompted you a career in foreign affairs?
I started in the early 90s. I was a journalist. I worked for Croatian TV, Croatian radio, did some other odd jobs on the side. I was invited to take the Foreign Service exam in early summer 92, and then I was offered my first job in the Foreign Service in November 92, where I started working in the journalist and press section of the Foreign Ministry. So it's been 30 odd years now since I've worked in Foreign Service. I've had many different, my career has gone in various directions. I did disarmament and arms control earlier in my career. I've done a lot of multilateral work, UN, security. My first mandate was in New York, 96 to 99, where I did First Committee, which is again disarmament, arms control, and Special Political Committee. Of course, we all dealt with Security Council issues there. Right. And it's interesting because in a short time, Croatia was a subject of Security Council debate with how the breakup of the former Yugoslavia went. And that was right through to the 1998, 99, early 2000s. And then in 2008, we got elected into the Security Council.
Okay. Yes.
So we completely, our position changed. We were those now on the inside looking out rather than the outside looking in. When we entered the Security Council, I think one of the first things we decided was that we needed to be very accommodating to those countries that are subjects of discussion in the Security Council. We wanted to be as open as we could be with them about what we were discussing about their countries, because we knew what it was like for us in those 90s. I had the fortune of being our acting deputy in New York at that time, so for me, it was interesting because I had the experience on one side and then also from the other side. But there you go. And after that, I was in Washington as our DCM from 2010 to 2013. I was in Zagreb for a number of years before I came out here. Prior to coming to Canada as ambassador, I was our political director and assistant minister dealing with everything that was not Europe. So I've had a very interesting career. I enjoy working in the Foreign Service. It really, it's a fulfilling job. I enjoy it.
Well, it must broaden your, like, just learning about all different countries and being in touch with their culture and everything just must be an amazing experience for you and your family.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are, regardless if there's snow outside, correct?
Yeah, that's very true.
Starting as ambassador in late 2019 means you are faced with a global pandemic mere months into your role.
Yeah.
In a role that demands so much travel, how have you found the last 3 years?
Difficult is the simple word. I, of course, this is my first ambassadorial posting, and I really, when I came here, I wanted to make the most of it. So yes, the early months were full of excitement and plans for my stay here. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit in March of 2020. In fact, I had 2 weeks earlier been in Vancouver, my first trip to Vancouver while I was here, where we opened up an honorary consulate and did some business meetings. I came back and literally a week after that everything shut down. I mean, it's not just for us in the diplomatic service, but everyone here had a hard time. So for 2 years, that first year everybody was living in the unknown. No one knew how we were going to approach this. I mean, you saw the pictures coming from all over the world, from Europe and elsewhere, about so many of our elderly that were passing away due to this virus. So it's understandable that the reactions were, we need to shut down until we know what we're dealing with.
Right.
That made travel and that made basically outreach. But part of our job is just to be outreaching to the different communities, not just to the Canadian sources, but also to our community that lives here. Very difficult. I remember that even in 2021, I would be trying to plan as we were starting to open and then close and open and close. By the time I would get to the time that I was supposed to travel somewhere, again another shutdown would happen. Yeah. So it was very hard planning in those days. We're fortunate that the vaccines were developed at such a timely manner, and it allowed us to come back to some sort of normalcy as the second year of the pandemic hit. So, you know, our congratulations goes to all those who did this. Hopefully now we're over this. I know that last year, 2022, we're in 23 already, but last year there was a feeling that we were coming back into that normal way of work. I know that last year I had much more travel than I had in the previous two. Up, right? So, and you also have to remember you could say our guess is that there is somewhere around 250,000-60,000 Croats that live in Canada, first, second, third generation. A lot of those live in the GTA area. I'd say over half. But we have communities all over Canada. Next week I'm traveling to Manitoba for the first time. Oh,
you should enjoy that.
Yes, I'm of course
in the
middle of winter.
You think it's cold here?
So great planning on my part. No, I mean I'll meet the Premier, the LG, and also the Croatian community who in Winnipeg are celebrating 50 years of their folklore group.
Nice.
Now we have big communities in Vancouver, and in Alberta, in Calgary, and Edmonton. So I've visited Calgary a number of times. I've not yet to visit Edmonton, which is, yes, I know, I've got to do it. And I visited Vancouver and Vancouver Island. I'm trying to go to all those places where our communities live. Now, for example, there's one place in Ontario here that I need to travel to, and I will later this year, Sudbury.
Oh,
Sudbury,
yeah, I played, yeah.
Sudbury was the home to a vibrant Croatian community over 80 years ago. And of course, because of the mining. Now, as the mining has things have changed there, the amount of Croats that live in that area has slowly declined. But they still have a community centre, they still have a parish.
That's beautiful. Your outreach to all your fellow countrymen all over Canada seems to be a driving force for you to make sure you touch.
It's a good part of what we do here as an embassy. We're outreaching to them because we are also, you got to remember that there is only, Croatia is a nation of 4 million people, but there's at least that many more abroad.
All over.
So this is a very important part of our identity. People who have left, and we're talking about immigration to Canada has been over the last 100 or so years. Our formal relations, as in the formal diplomatic relations, we will be celebrating the 30th anniversary as of April 14 this year. But the relationship between Croatia and Canada and Croatians and Canada goes far deeper. Croatians have been immigrating to here, or North America, US and Canada, for over 100 years.
Wow.
I remember my time when I was DCM in Washington, D.C. In 2011, I went to a community out in Seattle where they were celebrating the 100th anniversary of a formal community there, with a formal community center and organization, etc., etc.
Right.
So Croats have been immigrating to this area for a very long time, and they have been part of the development of US and Canada. In my case here, since I'm ambassador in Canada, and it's gratifying to see how they've helped this country to develop into what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong point. I have personally been felt welcome here from the beginning since I met you 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, before COVID. It's been an amazing time with all your colleagues, and all your staff have been just exemplary. Being an ambassador, how have you found the balance of work between family and work? How does that play a part in your life? And have you had a proper vacation in Canada yet? And where did you go?
I would say yes and no. I have the 2 years of COVID has really not given us many opportunities. My wife and boy came with me. My son came with me on that first trip to Vancouver. So we managed to see a bit of Vancouver together. But then for 2 years we really couldn't travel. It was very hard to plan these sort of things. There are, of course, around Canada you have much natural beauty. And it's only last year and this year that we've started to plan these outings. Over Christmas we went to Quebec. I had not yet been to Quebec since my time here.
Which part?
Quebec City.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Lovely city. It was a joy to see. I think my son Luca especially enjoyed the big sled ride that you have there. But it's a very quaint city, and it was lovely to walk around, even though it was cold and snowy. But it was. But you have very lovely national parks.
We're blessed.
I've gone to with friends who have invited me to little camping trips west of Ottawa, and of course Gatineau National Park. We've seen a lot of Mount Tremblant.
You've been there? Nice.
We took there's that animal park near Montebello. Omega.
Park
That's
Omega.
Park Omega.
Free plug there for Park Omega.
So we went through five bags of carrots in the space of half an hour. So It was, but
So
it was,
where are you
fun.
planning to go with the family? Where do you want to take them if they're in Canada? Is there one place you want to make
What
sure
I
your
really would like
son
to
and-
do, and of course we haven't yet seen Lake Louise, the Canadian Rockies. I am planning, hopefully, and we'll see how that'll work, from traveling from Calgary through to Vancouver, and then seeing all those places along the way.
I've done the drive with my kids. It's one of the most spectacular. Rent a nice SUV, safe, drive from Calgary, stop in Lake Louise. It's God's country. It really is. It's just breathtaking, that whole drive through there. If you could choose your next posting or assignment as an ambassador, which country maybe would you like to visit or be posted to?
It's hard because I don't make these decisions for
I
myself.
know.
The Prime Minister and the President need to sign off on these sort of things, and we'll see. I think that since it's been 3 years since I've been here, I think these decisions will be coming up soon. We do plan ahead, but I don't know. Maybe I'd like to return to the multilateral, so UN or security work. But we'll see. Again, my political leadership will look into this and see where I am most useful, and that's when the discussion will start.
Maybe your son and your wife maybe a little warmer.
After yes, I must say that last weekend when we had that extreme cold, is the first time I've experienced what it feels like to be at minus 38. Yes, layers upon layers upon layers of clothing.
No, it is unique, and it definitely changes your perspective to summer.
Yes,
You
it does.
definitely appreciate it a lot more. I'm going to try to get this right, Mr. Ambassador. Croatia started this year by adopting the euro as of
Yes.
January 1st and joining the Schengen, thank you for the correction,
It's okay.
area. What do you think this will do to help the average Croatian?
Joining the euro is something that we've been planning since we joined the European Union. I think it's a great thing. There is no risk of problems with conversion when it comes to currency. For someone who wants to invest in Croatia, whether they're in Europe or abroad, they know that the euro is now the stable currency in Croatia.
Right.
So that those risks go away. Mm-hmm. Croatia has our credit rating now is the highest we've had in our history, or since independence. But so joining the euro is just a smart move for us. You have not only for our industry, and we do have a vibrant industry, various from shipbuilding to the IT to medical to pharmaceutical, etc. We also have a strong agricultural industry, wine making, of course. Croatian wines are ever more prevalent here in the.
Been able to sample those at your Independence Day celebration here?
Exactly, and we can find them already now. We have, in fact, I was last year, and I very much thanked George Saleas, the president CEO of LCBO, who helped us open a destination store in Mississauga, not just Croatian but Central European wines.
Okay.
So they are
Interesting.
more prevalent and available now to the people of the GTA, and our community very much welcomes this because although the online buying was growing, it is having more choices in the stores helps them. They go in there, pick the one they want, and off they go.
That's amazing.
But it's the euro at home has helped us with these. Our exports are growing every year. And you also have to remember we're a very big tourist destination. In 2022, I think the number was about 17 or close to 18 million tourists came to Croatia. We're talking about a nation of 4 million people.
So I was doing my research on the basic numbers of the country.
A lot of tourists come to Croatia every year. So having the euro is going to only make it easier. Canadians, pre-pandemic, we had close to 200,000 Canadians visiting Croatia. Last year, so the first post-pandemic year that was almost normal, you had about half that much. There was about 105,000 Canadians come to Croatia. And we're hoping that number will grow. Air Transit at the moment is the only Canadian Airlines that flies directly to Croatia from Toronto. Air Canada used to. We're hoping that Air Canada will reintroduce the direct flights. So it's basically how to get there for Canadians that I think is a big part of how many would visit. If it's easier to get there, well then, I think you'd get more tourists.
Well, anybody that I mentioned to over the last few weeks that this interview is going to be taking course, and we had discussion, had said, they have basically said, just tell the ambassador we love the country and we're coming back. And everybody I speak to about Croatia just is beside themselves.
I am glad to hear that. It's showing that we're actually doing something right.
Oh, for sure. There's no question in my mind in that regard.
You also mentioned Schengen. Schengen is also for us a very important thing. It means that we're in the visa-free zone within the Europe. It's not just European Union. There's a number of, for example, Switzerland is in the Schengen zone, but they're not in the EU. But it just means that anyone traveling to Croatia from elsewhere within the Schengen zone, you can travel from Belgium, Sweden, Portugal, Germany. If you're going to Croatia, you don't need a travel document. You are, unless you're going on a plane where you have to show that. But it's basically you can drive from any of these places to Croatia. You're within that single zone. You're just going to make the transport and getting around
just a lot less restrictive.
Easier.
Yeah, so, I watched a video last night of them changing the sign at your border there on January 1st. Yeah. It was kind of a momentous.
We are now the outside border of Schengen towards Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serbia. Okay. That's where the stronger controls will be. But let's say towards Hungary and Slovenia, the border controls have been lifted.
Yeah.
So.
What are your feelings? This one is, what are your feelings about the current situation in the Ukraine? And how does it relate and compare to the struggles of an independent Croatia?
Eerily similar. Eerily similar. Ukraine, again, did not ask for this war. They were clearly attacked. They are the victim here. We have, as a European Union, we have made this very clear. Russia is the aggressor. The justifications for attacking Ukraine don't hold water. No one was threatening Russia. No one wanted to threaten Russia. In fact, Russia's slow integration into a wider Europe was happening. This has set this back decades. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Russian people will pay the price for one man's war and his delusions of grandeur. So yes, Ukraine has the right to defend its sovereignty, and we should help them defend their sovereignty. They are, as I said, the clear victims here. Now, the similarities between Croatia and our fight for independence and Ukraine's fight for not independence but for sovereignty are very similar. We did not ask for a war. We were clearly attacked. We were attacked under the same pretext that the Ukrainians are being attacked, in the sense that they're going to protect the Russian population in Ukraine. Or our neighbors, the Serbs, said the same thing about the Serbian population in Croatia. So there's one big difference, though. Ukraine enjoys an incredible amount of international solidarity, which it should. Croatia did not.
You didn't get that.
We had very little of that. We had an arms embargo placed on us. In fighting off the aggressor, we had a hard time simply arming people wanting to defend the country. This is the reason that a quarter of our country was occupied in those early days, because we didn't have the arms to fight with. Those days are behind us. We are, as I said, we've turned things around. In the 90s, it was a time of affirmation and just getting on board.
Right.
In the 2000s, we started to turn that around and return to where we wanted to be in Europe. We wanted to be a part of mainstream Europe. We made the conscious decisions in the 2000s that our path was in NATO and the European Union. And that's what we did. Entering the European Union, NATO, okay, is a different situation, but entering the European Union is not an easy exercise. You have to transform every aspect of your society. And that's something that we did. There was a conscious move on the left and on the right political spectrum. It was a national project.
Right.
There was no, should we do this? It was, how are we going to do this and how are we going to make it work?
It's bipartisan in nature.
And
everybody was on the board. Well, your leadership, including yourself and everybody in Croatia that led you down this path, it needs to be congratulated and applauded.
Thank you.
For your people of your country, for sure. What could we do as a Western Bloc nations? Do you see anything in particular that maybe we could do a little bit more to help our Ukrainian friends?
It's hard for me to answer this question because I'm not the one making the decisions. You can see that there is a lot of solidarity. Ukraine has received a lot of support in arms and non-lethal equipment. Croatia has been helping Ukraine for over a decade. We have had programs where they're injured, come to Croatia for rehabilitation. We've been helping them with demining. Every year, when I was in Zagreb in my former job, there were programs where Ukrainian children used to come to Croatia for summer camps, just to give them a chance for 10 days to experience something else. We have sent arms and other equipment to help the Ukraine, but what else can be done, I think, is a question up to our leaders. You have seen in the last discussions over the last couple of weeks that European Union and NATO leaders have come together and have decided to send the Ukraine armors, tanks and other. And again, this is all part. Croatia and the allied countries, our aim is not anti-Russian.
No, I don't think.
We want a good relationship with Russia. We want Russia to have a good relationship with us, but under respectful conditions.
Yeah.
And they need to respect Ukraine as a sovereign nation. Who are they liberating them from? Themselves. I mean, they don't want that. They want to have their own say in their own future. They have the right to have their own say in their own future. They're a democratic country that wants something that it's their right to have that. So we need to support that.
Well, we stand with you, our Ukrainian friends, for sure.
Yeah.
Democracy. Mm-hmm. Close to my heart. Mm-hmm. Father, World War II veteran, Monte Cassino, various
close to
things.
My heart as well.
You know, lost a lot of lives in World War II, in essence, protecting it. Mm-hmm. In a recent interview, you were quoted saying that Croatia is a modern democratic country.
Yeah.
What are the best features of democracy that the average person in any country would benefit from understanding? And maybe an example.
You know the old saying from Winston Churchill when he said democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others. That is very true. Democracy is something that has to be constantly worked on. It's not something that we can take for granted, nor should we take it for granted. Croatia has spent a long time and spent a lot of effort and blood and tears to get where we are now with our democracy. And we didn't get it right at the beginning. We've had our democracy has changed along the way. We had a semi-presidential system to start with, so our president had much more executive powers in that first decade. But come the early 2000s, the wish of the Croatian people was to have more checks and balances. So our semi-presidential system was transformed into a parliamentary democracy. We still have a president who is directly elected and has some constitutional powers, but most of the executive now lies with the government, and the government is selected through parliament. So parliamentary elections with us are very important, because that will provide who the new prime minister will be and how the government will be led. And like in Canada, we have a unicameral system of government. We used to have two chambers of parliament, the House of Representatives, which is still there, and we had the House of Counties, which was eliminated in the early 2000s for the simple reason that we felt that it was a lot easier to have one single House of Parliament. And as I said, this is an issue that needs constant work. You cannot, to be repeating myself, take your democracy for granted. Part of our development in joining these European organizations and institutions, and you can't call the European Union an organization, it's an intergovernmental body, is making sure that every aspect of your democratic existence corresponds to that of all your compatriots in the European family. We share the same values and the way we work through things. Living in the European Union means that regardless of where you are, you have the same rights and conditions as everyone else. This is the beauty about the European, not only single market, but the European Union, in the sense that my son can live and work anywhere in the European Union under the same rights and conditions as anyone else. He could decide to move to Paris tomorrow and has the same rights and conditions as someone who was born in Paris. And this is what this group of democracies has come together. This is the European project. This is what makes Europe strong. We are different, and yet we share so many of the similar values, and we work together on making that stronger.
Yeah, we would, I think a lot of people in Canada and the United States would like to travel across the border between here and the US and just work freely and do things, but who knows if that would ever come. What an achievement in Europe, though, for having this freedom to move and work.
You know that the Canadian mindset, the Canadian way of doing things is very similar to what we have in Europe. They used to also joke that if Canada was on the other side of the Atlantic, they'd already be a member of the European Union.
Absolutely.
The way, the mindset is so very similar. We have very strong relationships with Canada overall as the European Union, and also individual countries. I mean, there are many Croats here, but there are many other Europeans who made Canada what it is today. I know. Of course,
we're founded on immigrants, really. Our whole nation is built back in the day after the wars, and all the immigrants coming into this country, building the railways, and you name it. The most valuable strengths of democracy, and I don't know, maybe one or two of the most valuable key points of a democratic system, and the strength of that. What would you point to?
The ability to change.
Interesting.
You elect your government. You are electing your government. This is the strength of democracy. The government is not electing you. You are electing your representatives.
Well put.
You don't like your representatives, you can change it. You have the ability to show which course you want to see your society go, and that is through your elected representatives. You are telling the government, are they doing a good or a bad job?
Yeah, we have a choice. Everybody has a vote.
You look at those countries that don't have that choice.
Yeah.
And where that often leads to. So,
I personally believe the threats to democracy come from the citizens not understanding enough the virtues of democracy.
Very true. This is why democracy constantly needs to be worked on. Don't take democracy for granted. We said this earlier on. Democracy needs constant work and constant it's not just work, but I'm thinking of the Croatian word, the English word isn't coming to me. But
effort.
No, not only effort, but you need to caress it. You need to.
Okay.
It's not something that
Shape it, mold it.
Yes, and by all means, coming back to what I said before, do not take it for granted. You have populists who can come and give you the, yes, we need this now, and it can sound good, but in the long run, is it going to help me? It's one of the hard things about democratic societies is that we often fall into what is easier for now. Often takes very brave politicians to say this is what is good for the long run. You tend to go election cycles.
Yeah,
this is why
I understand.
why Churchill said what he said, because oftentimes we're moving from one election cycle to the next.
It's all about getting
I'm
elected.
a diplomat. I'm not a politician, so I can't put myself in a politician's shoes. But I've seen that with us, and in many European democracies, there is a longer-term view of where we should be heading. We wouldn't be members of the European Union now if our politicians had thought short election cycles. Certain things are in a national interest, and everybody recognizes that.
I see, like with Croatia going through the war and the struggles they had through the independence. So your first generation, your second generation youth are still have visible knowledge of it. Probably parents that went through it that communicate to them and tell them the stories about it. One of the biggest problems I see in our country and in other countries is now there is no direct communication of somebody who physically experienced, for example, World War II. So the youth kind of, and the other generations, the younger generations miss out on the firsthand knowledge of what it means to achieve democracy and freedom.
It's something you read in a book now rather than something you talk about.
Yeah. Let's chat about Croatia.
Okay.
From a PR perspective. Not that we need to. Everybody says they want to go. Everybody wants your number. What are the hidden gems? What are some hidden gems about Croatia? Like, where should I go? I don't know. Just give us a PR piece.
It's hard to say where are the hidden gems because there are a few hidden gems left. People go to the usual places in Croatia. Of course, the Adriatic is a big seller. A lot of from the down south in Dubrovnik, which is a lovely medieval city, through to Split in the middle of the Adriatic, which is Split used to be the former Emperor Diocletian's retirement villa, but it was also a port.
You're gonna have to look that one up, Ali.
For example, in the northern Adriatic, you have the city of Rijeka. Rijeka was during the Austro-Hungarian times one of the main ports of the former empire. A lot of immigrants who came to North America from Central Europe, so from the Czech Republic through to Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Austria, they all left through the Croatian port of Rijeka to come out this way. There are many lovely national parks. You can see some of them in the photos that we have around here. You have lovely parks like Krka National Park, which is a series of cascading waterfalls. Krka was also home to not the first, but only because it took them a little longer to build, but the second ever hydroelectric power plant in the world, built under the same patent of Nikola Tesla, who was born in central Croatia, in the town of Smiljan near Gospić, where he grew up and spent his early years, and often came back to Croatia and helped in many ways that he could. You have another set of waterfalls called the Plitvice National Park, which is in central Croatia. If you're coming down from Zagreb towards the coast, but you can go inland.
Okay.
In the east, there are lovely national parks right in close to the Hungarian border. There's a lovely nature reserve, But then you have Paklenica National Park, which is close to Zadar. Kornati National Park, which is close to my home, which is an archipelago of islands off of Murter and Šibenik. Of course, a lot of people come to Croatia for summer holidays to spend time on the Adriatic. Sailing holidays are very popular in Croatia because the sailing is relatively, the winds aren't strong, especially during the summer. During the winter months they can get very strong, but during the summer months not so much. Northern Croatia has a number of castles that people like to visit. Trakošćan, amongst them, Veliki Tabor. This is all part of our time in Austro-Hungary.
Which city has the Roman Colosseum, the longest standing and the most intact?
Pula.
Pula, yeah, I saw that.
It's on the Istrian archipelago. So you have lovely little towns. You've got from Pula to Rovinj. You have Brijuni National Park off the coast in Istria. It's interesting. Interesting piece of history is that the non-aligned movement was actually formed in Croatia. On the island of Brijuni, where Josip Broz Tito, together with Nehru and Nasser, came together with an idea to create a non-aligned movement. And then the first actual meeting of non-aligned happened in Belgrade a couple of years later, but the actual idea was formed in Brijuni.
Okay.
So,
as far as a Canadian traveling there, simply a passport?
Yes.
Nothing else required?
You need now an e-visa, which basically you go online, like we do when we travel to Canada.
Okay.
You have the ETA, the electronic travel authorization, the same thing you have going to Croatia.
So hidden gems, too many to count?
Too many to count. Depends on what you want to do. A lot of people come to Croatia because they want to spend a week just on the coast relaxing.
That's what I was going to ask you. If it was your first time to Croatia, like it will be in my lifetime, where's the must? Where am I spending? Let's say I have 2 weeks. If I have 2 weeks.
When are you going? Is another important thing. For example, Zagreb, Croatia's capital, is becoming more and more a tourist destination. People are not just going to Zagreb and then traveling on; they're enjoying Zagreb itself, which is a lovely city, very much like Vienna. Now, for example, Zagreb has a great Advent at the Advent time.
Advent, Christmas time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The Christmas fair in Zagreb, which lasts for about a month through to the first week after the New Year.
Yeah, so it's a very holy kind of celebration, traditional. Prior
to COVID, I think it was selected the best Advent destination in Europe 2 years running.
Wow.
So there are different things to do, and at different times. Most people like coming to Croatia during the summer vacation because the Adriatic has so much to offer. But I would say it all depends on what you want to do. Split is a lovely city to. It's very vibrant. It gets very crowded over the summers. They're still uncovering some of the catacombs under the city.
Oh, okay, similar to.
And you can do tours to see this sort of thing.
Right.
Wine tours are more popular now. There's a lot of wineries that people frequent on the islands and on the coast. Makarska Riviera is a lovely area to visit. Some of the southern islands, if you want to have more privacy, you go a little bit further out to places like Vis. But again, it all depends on what sort of vacation you want. I'm from an island called Murter, and that's a great summer destination for Middle Adriatic, north of Šibenik, south of Zadar.
How many people on that island?
Murter Betina have a standing population of about 2 point something thousand, so it's
2,000? So
Just
I need
over
a
two-
special
2,500,
permit, or I got to know somebody to get there? I gotta, like, I'm not just going to drive up on my boat and anyways.
But the summer population, goes up 4 or 5-fold.
Oh, okay.
So then it becomes just a hard time to find a place to sit in a cafe and have your coffee.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
I was doing a little research. As you know, I do a lot of international real estate for Engel Vokers. And I was very astonished to find out that certain parts of the country, it's almost virtually impossible for a foreigner to purchase real estate. Your real estate prices seem to be anywhere from 2,000 upwards of 5,000 a square meter.
yeah.
Amazing. Like that is
Depending on where you're looking at and which city it is. Of course, Dubrovnik is hugely expensive. Split is becoming also maybe not rival to Dubrovnik, but it's getting close. It's hard, but we've also made the decision that we don't want to overbuild. The tourist slogan in Croatia used to be "Come see the Mediterranean as it once was." So we want to keep it that way. We don't want to have too many big buildings that
let the mighty dollar drive it.
That will ruin the charm of the Adriatic. And urban plans have limited where you can actually put residential buildings along the coast. So there's a lot of control going on there because it's basically we don't want to ruin what we have. So that, of course, now as it's becoming more and more popular, affects the prices of real estate.
Less supply,
So,
higher demand.
Yeah.
So from a foreign perspective, whether I'm in the U.S., Canada, obviously I've fallen in love with all of you here at the embassy. From my time of knowing you, somebody goes to your country, visits, they fall in love with the country. I've got to have a summer house here. I've got to have something. Is it, I understand the pricing is the pricing. It is what it is, supply and demand. But for a foreigner to actually purchase and have, for example, a summer vacation property or something, is it complicated or?
It is complicated. There's a reciprocal agreement in the sense that how many Croatians own property in Canada is the same amount of Canadians that can own property in Croatia.
Interesting.
Now, of course, if someone has Croatian citizenship, it makes it easier for them because our diaspora people here can attain Croatian citizenship, and then through that they can purchase property. If you're a European Union member, well, then it's a lot easier to purchase property than being not a European Union member.
Okay.
So,
but it can be accomplished if you have the right.
It can be accomplished. It just sometimes it's a burdensome process that takes a while.
Well, I can see why. It's definitely a diamond.
Not even in the rough anymore.
Not even in the rough anymore. That's what I was trying to look for that word. When you go back home, where do you personally feel most connected in Croatia? Is it the island?
I go home. So I go to Murter. It's a lovely little island in the middle Adriatic, and from there, if I get time, I'll go out to Kornati Islands. It's hard because when you're abroad, going home means that you're there for maybe a couple of weeks. So it's hard to make plans to go to many places because you want to see family and friends.
Right.
Then I go to, sometimes we go to Šibenik, sometimes we go to Split. My brother lives in Split, so I go see him and his family. Then my family sometimes takes something, we sometimes go somewhere else. Last year we went to Brač, which is an island just off Split, for something
so
different
it's just
to do.
too many gems.
Yeah.
You can't decide on one.
And Brač has some great wineries. As I said, it's plan your visit, see what you want to do, and then there are many things that you can do in all these places.
One last thing. We shared some fun during the World Cup.
Yes, we did.
What an amazing feat.
Thank you.
4 million people.
Yeah.
Semi-finals. If I'm not mistaken, it's twice.
Yeah. We
In a row. The pride that your nation must feel for football.
Yeah.
And the accomplishments. Like I was here when you beat Brazil.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing. They're going to win next time?
Yeah. Well, I would say in any tournament football, it's a combination of skill and a bit of luck. But I think that we have demonstrated that our footballers are world class. I know that I received many questions. We were in the same group as Canada,
Yeah, okay, you beat us.
I went to watch. No, Canada. I think Canadian men's football is getting better and better. They lacked a bit of experience on the international stage. There's a lot of promise there, and I think that you're doing really good things with your football program here. I think the experience won out when we played Canada. I remember watching the first half of the game. I watched with the local council member from Sandy Hill.
So you mentioned that.
So and I literally was answering some messages that were coming in, and the Canadians scored a goal, and it was like, my God, what's going on? So everyone was.
My God, what's going on? As if we weren't going to score a single goal.
And then people were giving me significant looks. It's like, said, okay, it's a long game. It lasts for 90 minutes. Let's see how it goes. And then slowly we turn things around. But I mean, it is an achievement. We are very proud of our team. Since independence, I think Croatia has only missed one World Cup. So,
but what's in the water? You got 4 million people.
Yeah.
You've got the United States, 250 million. You got Canada, 25 million.
Football. It's a tradition. I mean, in our first World Cup in '98, we also reached the semi-final. We ended up losing to France 2-1, who were the eventual winners. We came third. So in the 6 World Cups we have been in, we have reached the semi-finals 3 times, and the finals once.
Incredible.
So we've done all right. Hopefully this tradition will continue. We'll see what succeeding World Cups have in store for us. Each one is a separate issue. So now we'll be starting the qualifying cycle for the next Europeans,
right.
European Championships.
Do you ever see hosting maybe the World Cup or European?
I think Croatia wanted to host one of the Europeans, but together with Hungary we put a bid,
jointly.
But it was unsuccessful. We'll see. Hopefully somewhere along the line we may, but it's not up to me, it's up to our Football Federation, who will decide on this together with the government. But yes, there's a long tradition, and I think that if you look, coming runners-up in 2018, coming third in 2022 shows that it wasn't a fluke.
Oh no, it was just amazing talent, and like I said, I don't know what's in the water there. 4 million people, but it's a passion, right? It's no different than hockey in Canada in many respects.
Absolutely.
So I sincerely want to thank you for taking the time today.
My pleasure.
Mr. Ambassador. It was a pleasure, and I hope that our viewers enjoy the conversation and learn and understand more about your country and what it means to the world.
We are open for business.
You heard it. The ambassador has said, Croatia is open for business.
Super. Thank you, Richie.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a great day. That wraps up our discussion with the Croatian ambassador, and I want to thank him again. I would like to send out an open invitation to all ambassadors to Canada to reach out to me or my producer if they wish to participate in this series. I would be delighted. And for the ones that I haven't reached out to yet, I apologize. Have an amazing day and enjoy our country during your stay. All the best.